So my question to you is, and I know this is kind of like off topic with the trade deadline, is looking back at this summer's free agency, you waived Joe Harris, who you traded for, you used a majority of your cap space to get, and you traded for Monte Morris. Looking back, like, do you kind of think they went into this past summer's free agency and maybe they have some regrets? Because you look at the free agency this year and, like, Kory, I don't know who they're going to target with all this cap space. Like the list is very underwhelming if I'm a Pistons fan. Like, I'm not getting too excited with some of the names out there.
Ooh, that's a real tough question. I'm gonna say that there might be some regrets. There might be some. I think the acquisition of Joe Harris was the more mind-boggling one. I think getting Monte Morris. I think getting Monte Morris through that trade with how they did it, that was smart. I mean,
Yeah.
it didn't work out because he got injured pre-training, during training camp. I mean, and nobody could have saw that coming. So, but I think Troy shouldn't catch any flack for that one. That was actually a smart move because what you did was, you needed a backup point guard to Cade Cunningham, and you solidified a guy that not only has experience as a starter, but is also who was willing and ready to play that backup role. And with Cade having some inconsistent health, that was a really smart move. You went ahead and got a savvy veteran on an expiring deal where you didn't have to commit long term and see what he can do. It just didn't work out. Joe Harris was kind of interesting because Joe Harris has been injured over these past couple of seasons. So it was just like, I didn't understand where that one was going to go. And then it reared its ugly head this year. He only played like 16 games.
Yeah.
And that one, and I think when it comes to Monty, I think it was just bad luck. When it comes to Joe Harris, I believe, there may be some regret. Maybe they could have used some of that money and added some, in no disrespect to who they require, but who knows, maybe could have added a better piece or pieces with that money. So
yeah, I was calling, like, just for like a name. Like, I thought Kelly Oubre. Like, if you were to sign Kelly Oubre, let's just say you give him $10 million, like, he's probably coming to Detroit. I thought the Joe Harris trade, I was kind of scratching my head. I'm like, okay. The Monte Morris trade, to like what you were saying, I 100% agree. I thought for the value that you got him, he was on an expiring like $9-10 million deal. I didn't hate that move. The Joe Harris trade, when I look back at it, I'm like, what are we doing? Like, are you trying to surround this young core with, players that can actually play basketball, players that can contribute? And I just kind of felt like this front office is just, they were content with just evaluating, and they weren't really focused on if the wins came. They just wanted to see if, Cade can be a high usage guard. How does Ivy look next to Cade? Which I've talked at nauseum. Like, I think you can evaluate and still add talent around your core. And
absolutely.
I don't know how, like, they don't, like, the front office didn't think of, signing mid-tier guys that, help this, young core out.
Yeah, I didn't. When they look back on free agent, when they look back on this, that's going to be the one thing that's going to probably haunt them, because I mean, going into this offseason, the way that they've set this up, it's almost like it's, and again, people, this is not me saying go get this player. I'm talking about off the list of who's out there. It's almost Tobias Harris or bust this summer with the money they have.
Yeah.
That's the way they're positioned right now. It's Tobias Harris or bust. And Tobias is a great player. I mean, look, I know people are like, well, he played here before. Look, he played here before, but it wasn't like he was bad. They just moved him for Blake Griffin. But Tobias is still a bucket. It's just the question you have is he a needle mover?
Yeah.
And the Pistons are now in a position where if they don't go get him, then again, like you're saying, who are they going to target that is going to be a needle mover? Because you're gonna have so much cap space that you got to use it somewhere.
Yeah, the two guys that are remaining now. This was a wish list that came out this year from Shams Charania. OG Anunoby is going to re-sign with the Knicks. I think we can both agree there.
Absolutely.
Pascal Siakam. The Pacers gave up the farm for Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam is going to sign a supermax with the Pacers. I think we can both agree there.
Yeah.
The other two players, one that you mentioned, Tobias Harris. I'm going to give him 30, 40 million at that stage of his career. I don't know how that's going to sit with the fan base. Nothing against Tobias Harris. I think he's a fine player, good basketball player, but is he really going to get you maybe a 7 seed with this young core? I don't know. I don't know how much he has left in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
And the last player that was on that wish list is a player that I think a lot of people are familiar with. He went to Michigan State. There's off the court issues, and that's Miles Bridges. The Pistons have been really interested in Miles Bridges. I learned recently, before the off the court stuff happened, they were willing to give him an offer sheet this summer. And that the off the court stuff happened. Obviously, they backed out from giving him an offer sheet. But I think those are your realistic targets: Tobias Harris and Miles Bridges. Those are the two small forwards that they're looking at to target. And if that's their big splash and their master plan, I would hate to be the Pistons PR. I really would because
I don't think, and I know some people are gonna say, "Why are you bringing this up?" I'm bringing this up because I have to. I really do not see a scenario where the Pistons add Miles Bridges. It's and you can talk about how well he's played this season. He's playing pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But for the Pistons specifically, I'm not talking about any other team. Detroit Pistons specifically, I don't know how they bring him in given the optics already for their organization. They're already under a lawsuit from a former exec for sexual harassment where she's suing the organization and Rob Murphy.
Yeah.
The Pistons cannot have even taken a serious look at Ime Udoka when they were going through their coaching search last year. I don't see how you bring in a guy with Miles Bridges that has his checkered off the court domestic issues when you're undergoing a lawsuit for sexual harassment. I just don't see how you do it. It is a PR nightmare. And again, there are people here, if Bridges did not have that situation over his head, we're probably not having a lot of different discussions and we're watching Bridges in a Pistons uniform. Because those happened, this is where we are. I don't see it happening at all. There is one other name that I was doing, and I went and did a real quick look, and I don't know how updated this is, but gotta see what DeMar DeRozan's gonna do. I don't see him. I mean, you still got Dwayne Casey in the front office, so you might be able to do some sweet talking right there. I mean, it's not like everything is going super great with the Bulls. I mean, Levine cannot stay healthy. I think that if you bring DeRozan in to play that three, which he can, I mean, he's shown it. That's a bucket. that's your 20 to 20. That's your 22 to 25 guy a night, and then who can get you 35. And he's a savvy veteran, been around the league. It's going to command some respect. Going to be able to help with the growth of Asar Thompson. And I believe I believe if you can, I believe that's a guy that they could possibly target as well. But again, you're really looking at a handful of names that if you don't go get them with that capital money, it's a bust. And when you're one of the worst teams, when you're one of the worst teams in the NBA, right now you have the worst record. You got to finish strong to be able to sell yourself on those guys coming to Detroit.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I know I've mentioned the Rob Murphy stuff on this podcast because some people, they're not as locked in, with the stuff. Like he was a, former, Eastern Michigan University head basketball coach, I believe.
Yep. Yes, he was.
He worked as a general manager for the Motor City Cruise. He got promoted. I want to say it was last year to be not only the general manager of the Cruise, but also the general manager of the Detroit Pistons, and all that stuff happened. And I know Local 4 did like a whole video interview with that girl. You guys can go look it up and like read the story because I'm not taking sides to it. It's not my responsibility, and I think it would be irresponsible for me to even take sides. As for the Miles Bridges stuff, I've always talked as a basketball fit, it makes sense. Off the court, like you said, PR nightmare. I 100% agree. Like if he didn't have any of that off the court issues, I think the Pistons would be all in. Same with a whole lot of other teams. I mean, you look at what he's doing right now. Currently, he's putting up 30, 40 piece, games right now. Like he's balling out of his mind.
He's going crazy. It's going crazy.
I mean, like, I think there's a world when I'm looking at free agents, they could just start making calls to make trades. I've told you before, and you've told me too, like that's not a bad idea. Like I think Andrew Wiggins could be a real target. I really do. And I know when people hear Andrew Wiggins and they're going to look, how he's played this year. And obviously, he's dealing with stuff off the court as well. Family matters. So his head's maybe not mentally in the game, but I think you get a guy in Andrew Wiggins who I think could help you out on the wing, hit some 3-point shots, and he's a professional at the end of the day. He was a big part of the Golden State Warriors when they won their last champion. And I know that's not like a sexy name that Pistons fans want to hear, but I think those are the type of players that they'll probably target, kind of mid-tier, like, B- guys to try to get them out of where they're currently in. But it wouldn't surprise me if they look at free agency, they're not in love with anybody. They're not in love with paying Klay Thompson, because I think that's like the best free agent that you could possibly get. Like, you're not going to pay Klay Thompson at this stage of his career what he's probably commanding. Wouldn't surprise me if they look at teams that, have guys that are on a couple more years of their contracts and it's like, hey, let's go trade for Harrison Barnes. Let's go trade for Andrew Wiggins. Like, let's try to get like these mid-tier type of small forwards.
I had to laugh for a quick second. I'm leaving that one alone. but Andrew Wiggins, we talked about it. I mean, Andrew Wiggins makes more sense than people really want to believe because, again, he's a guy that is on a contract already, so he would be with the Pistons for a couple of years. And also, too, with the way the salary cap is rising, Andrew Wiggins is on a very, very, very friendly contract, salary cap wise. So I think that's why it would make sense. He's a veteran. He's been in a couple of locker rooms. Besides being an NBA champion, you can argue that year that the Warriors won their title, he was the second best player on the team. There's an argument for that to be made. And I think with the way things have gone with the Golden State Warriors, I think the ship just ran its course on a lot of players in that group, and a lot of those guys could just benefit from a fresh start. I think that Andrew Wiggins could come here and he could be your starting small forward day one. And that takes nothing away from Asar Thompson because he still has, as great as he is, he still has a little bit more room to grow. But again, you can not only have Wiggins as your day one piece, but again, because of his contract, he's a very tradable piece down the line should you need to move him. So, I mean, I think that's a guy they should. I think that's a guy they should target, but through the free agency, it's just going with the way the season has gone. It's going to be tough. If they right now they're 8-43, if I'm not mistaken. So 30 games left. I think to really be able to seriously sell themselves on free agents, you're going to be asking this team to win at least 12 more games at the basement, 15 to 16 if we're trying to get greedy here. But realistically, you're hoping this team gets to 12 more games so they can at least say, hey, we were 3 games better than last year. So you'll be able to put that feather in your cap. But, I mean, free agency is going to be – I'm telling you right now, the names are not sexy, but if you're able to get one of those guys in, like a DeMar or a Tobias, I mean, you did good because that's who you're at this point. That's who you have to get. If you don't get them, you failed free agency.